Hello and welcome to Behind the Build, Iron Viz edition. My name's Archana Ganeshalingam. By day, I'm a program manager for Tableau Solution Engineering team. And by night, or at least by Tableau conference, I'm co-host of Iron Viz. Iron Viz is the world's largest data visualization competition. What began as a breakout session at Tableau conference back in 2011 has now grown into a global phenomenon and has become a core part of our data fan. 3 Iron Viz finalists take center stage and have 20 minutes to tell the most compelling story using the same data set. Just like the feeder competition leading up to it, contestants' Vizes are scored based on analysis, design, and storytelling. It's something you must see to truly understand. Today, we'll be going behind the scenes where my co-host Andy Cotgreave and finalist Paul Ross will be watching his live build back and chatting through some key moments and decisions behind his final build. With that, it's over to you, Andy.
All right, well, thank you, Archana. And here we are, Paul. We've pressed play on the recording of the final build. First of all, how's life changed since winning Iron Viz?
Oh, it's been a ride, that's for sure. Not quite the heady heights of Data Night Out. That was like kind of like being one of the Beatles.
That was the zenith, was it?
Although good old Lewis Yu from Games Like Viz got me back in the limelight recently for an interview, so I haven't escaped fame just yet.
All right, fantastic. So I think like most Iron Viz finalists, you're starting off with formatting. Is the formatting something you do with all your workbooks, or is this an Iron Viz trick? What's going on here, and how does this apply to business use of Tableau?
Yeah. More of an Iron Viz trick, I think. I think if you watch a lot of the sort of like Vizes over time, they spend a lot of time sort of going down this column and just mainly turning things off to clean things up. We just chose the font, and I didn't do anything too daring with the font. I went with the Tableau family, like I did with my qualifier, and part of that I think was just my self-appointed role as the patron saint of Tableau newbies. I just wanted to make something that was kind of approachable, and people could sort of follow along and behind the Viz and think, oh yeah, I could do that. He's not doing anything too complicated. So Tableau font, although I did go for the Tableau medium to make it a bit sort of stand out a bit more on the big screen.
Yeah, for those who don't know, the Tableau font was a specially designed font optimized for screen display of data visualization. So that there's a little bit of history behind that. So you went Team Dark, you went dark background, which was more clicks than needed. Why did you do a dark background?
Yeah, I think what Will said when he was judging is the best explanation. That I knew like the map and certainly the highlighting of the cities in the map was very important, and that was just always going to be easier with like a dark background.
Yeah,
I'll tell a little anecdote about the colors. I didn't do anything too, just like the Tableau font. I didn't do anything too daring with the colors, just very basic Tableau colors. But I did find a website that said the four punchiest colors you can do against a dark background: the green, the cyan that I choose, the yellow, and also magenta, which I didn't have any use for in my Viz. But I chose 3 out of the 4 all-time great punchy colors against a dark background.
That's brilliant. The all-time greats. I like that. Yeah, and again, for those watching, color is so important. So that's great, right? So that little bit of research, and I mean, we'll see it as we come later. This dashboard looked amazing on the big screen in Keynote. You were facing away from the big screen, Paul, so you might not have noticed it, but there was a couple of times Archana and I sat and was like, yeah, that looks really, really punchy. So looked great.
Thank you.
As a little anecdote, I found as we're in more and more virtual meetings and virtual presentations, I use dark backgrounds on PowerPoint slides almost all the time now because it burns my eyes looking at white screens all day. Anyway, let's get back to building Viz.
Yeah,
so you've done some parameters here. Explain what's going on with the parameters you built, and then leading into what we're seeing on the bar chart.
Yeah, so there are actually 2 parameters in there. I think a lot of Iron Viz finalists have a parameter to sort of step you through the story. That wasn't anything too out of the ordinary. What I sort of added to the mix was my first parameter. Did a lot of dynamic zone visibility, so as well as sort of updating the title and the bullets at the top of the screen, like a chapter turning device. It also sort of turned off and on sort of the containers all over the screen to sort of like an orchestra conductor, sort of just the step counter did all the work, but then sort of individually things were popping on and off. That was the first parameter, and then the second parameter was kind of like an inception of parameters. It was a second parameter. You got to a certain point in the story, and it dropped you into a second parameter, and that was when you hit the NASA data. So the second parameter was to get you through the NASA action.
Oh, that's excellent. I can't even conceive of how that works. So we can go and download the workbook, right, to reverse engineer this double parameter.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, parameters and those actions. That's great. Now we've done a Vizzing tooltip. That was that chart. Previous to that, you had a bar chart with a big empty skeleton bars beneath the zero axis. What was the design choice behind that?
Yeah, that was. I guess this is where I should talk about the iceberg in the room, the elephant in the room.
Yep.
I was going to talk about this a bit later when we got to the dashboard. But yeah, so the story always had chapters 1 and 2, which was kind of like, here's the green cities. They seem to be sort of trending up. Things seem to be going well, but wait for it, slow reveal. We're missing a lot of data. And so that sort of empty space of the bar chart was meant to represent the missing cities. And then in terms of the iceberg to sort of wallpaper over the top, that was a question that Nina asked very early in my supervisor. I was telling the story, and I actually used the word, so we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg. And she immediately said, ooh, can we make that look more like an iceberg? And I was like, what do you mean, Nina? And she's like, I don't know what I mean. Go and play around with it and see what happens. And very, very Mr. Miyagi of her. And so I went away and I dabbled with, I could talk at length about the icebergs, and I don't know if we want to spend a lot of time talking about the icebergs, but what I ended up with was just, as you see, just a single sort of half a shot. I lacked the skills to make the Viz look like an iceberg, but I ended up with a pic that I sort of put over the top. And then I also sort of put the can I say big ass number on this recording?
You can say big ass number, I'm sure.
Big ass, yeah. So I ended up with a big ass number on the iceberg. Other visits have big ass numbers, but only mine had it on an iceberg. So I thought that was a nice touch. And yeah, so I went back to her. That was an epic journey inspired by one little question from Nina. So
well, and if ever. That's just the truism of what we're doing here, isn't it? It's art and science, and those inspirations do come from these crazy throwaway comments can send you down productive rabbit holes or avenues. I wanted to. You had the data source with the most fields in it, and I think part of it is the way you're building. In fact, as we're seeing right now, these are conditional titles. Is this right?
Yeah, so there are conditional titles and conditional tooltips. So nearly, I think 100% of the text that you see on the screen is kind of in the database. Like it all got built during prep. And so all the bullets and the titles you see are database fields, and all the tooltip fields are database fields. The reason why there's so many tooltip fields is because I sort of split them into little chunks, so I could sort of do bold and then normal, then bold, then normal, then bold, and I could sort of mix them. Yeah, so that's why there seem to be voluminous fields.
Yeah, and it's a really powerful technique, and again, it's simplicity can be quite hard to build sometimes. I suspect
Indeed.
Most people see those conditional tooltips and kind of absorb the ease of ignition through them, but perhaps don't appreciate the work that went into to building them. So I for one appreciate that. Right, now we're about to see the map change. In fact, here we go. Tell me about these shapes. These
so
blurry virus style shapes.
I've got to give another shout out to Nina here as well. Nina demystified custom shapes for me. I was talking about custom shapes and how mysterious they were, and she's like, you can just build them in PowerPoint. What are you talking about? And turns out she was right. Like I knew PowerPoint you could draw in PowerPoint, but I didn't know it was easy as you just draw in PowerPoint and then you save it as an image, and then hey presto, it's a custom shape. And she was absolutely right. And so once that happened, I was like, great, I can make all the custom shapes I want. And so I spent some time on these, as you say, the virus shapes. And it was nice, really. it sort of gave a little bit of artistry as a complete non-artist, without an artistic bone in my body, other than Viz design. Maybe it sort of just gave it a little sort of, I built that. That was something I designed. So that was a nice addition.
And now I always say everyone's got artistic bones in their body. You know, you've taken on the design path. Now, some people might say, Paul, that you have sacrificed precision on the altar of aesthetics by using fuzzy edged circles. What do you say? I would never say that, but to those people, what would you say?
Fully edged circles.
Because they're blurry edged, right?
Right.
They're slightly less accurate ways to encode data because you've blurred the edges.
Oh, right. On the fireplace. Yeah. I think it was more. Yes, you're absolutely right. It was a design choice. It was a case of I wanted them to sort of pop more than I wanted them to, because it's a great question. And at various stages of the build, I had more. I was sort of dabbling with tables and sort of really I want to show exactly how many cities there are on this map and what color they all are. And in the end, I decided, no, it's really just a kind of an effect, right? It's like you want to see, wow, there's a lot of hydro and a lot of dark blue, a lot of hydro on the screen. And that's really all I needed. And so I didn't need a precision sort of element for that. So that's the conclusion I finally came to. Rather pop rather than precise, as you say.
I'm with you 100%. I think, my own journey through this field, I once, for a long time in this career, I thought precision was the ultimate goal. And then it's like, well, sometimes, particularly in something like Iron Viz, or anytime you're telling a story with data, conveying the gist might be all you need to do, right? Nobody is sitting in the Iron Viz audience going, oh, I can't tell if that blue circle or green circle is 10 times bigger or 8 times bigger. It's like, it doesn't matter. So tell us about dashboard building. You're doing a floating tiled item hierarchy bonanza here. Is this hard to get your head around? What's the features you're using and how have you used them to your benefit?
Yeah, I think this is when you gave me a special shout out on stage and said, hey, there's a lot of maps on your screen at the moment, Paul. What's going on? So yeah, it's basically 2 containers that do all the work. So on the left hand, we just got rid of a blank. The blanks were there to sort of pad out the shape, so I knew what I was working with, and I got rid of those pretty quickly. And there's 2 containers that handle the maps. The left one has 3 maps and the right one has 2. And it's just, dynamic zone viz, and I'm sure you can do lots of amazing things with it. But what I was doing was I start off with the big circle map that's taking up the whole screen. Then we move to the middle one. It does a lot of work. All the color changes and so forth are happening on the middle map. And then the bottom one comes on when we have to move to a 2x2 display, and then the NASA maps come on. And it was this idea was in the Viz from an early stage, and it was kind of more complicated at one stage. There were more storyboards and more, I want to do this and this. And at the end of the day, it just came down to now, like big maps look awesome, and 4 maps were necessary for the finale. And that's what I spent most of my time on.
And tell me about the process then of building something that, this is still pretty complex, right? And are you designing this on paper first, or just kind of feeling your way just by playing around on the Tableau canvas? Which approach do you take?
I definitely storyboarded first, and I definitely spent a lot of time. I spent a lot of time on the story first. I don't have it here, but I do have a. I'm gonna give a talk at a tug soon, and I've got my stack of story papers.
Oh, brilliant!
Just for my little 3-minute spiel, and there's like a stack of like 15 or 20 of them, just different versions of it that I went through. So start with the story, and then once you've got a story working, then get the storyboards happening. But that's not to say that changes absolutely happened after I got to Tableau, but I did do quite a bit of work with a pen and paper before I got to Tableau.
Oh, that's funny. Now I love this bit of the build, because this is a game where a simple story is actually built using quite a lot of, they're not hacky. You're not hacking Tableau really, but what did you just do there at the bottom of the screen with those gray boxes?
Yeah, with the blanks. So just like the it took a bit of figuring out, but to do the legends, I wanted to sort of do, well, I wanted to start with the legend you could see there, just the black and the green. And then when all the colors were on the board, I wanted to see all of them. And then when we got down to the finale, oh, look at you with your fancy spotlight thing. And then when we got down to the finale, I just wanted to see solar and wind, right? And so I had the choice of either loading all those images in separately and turning them off and on individually, or in the end, I decided, no, just load the whole thing as a single image and then turn them off by putting blanks over the top and turning the blanks on and off as you progress through the chapter. So that's what was going on there.
That's very clever. And yeah, in the interest of Iron Viz, any technique that works is valid, right? Maybe we wouldn't do this in our business environment, but
yeah, I wanted to say something that took an excruciating amount of time was first of all, copying and pasting all the booleans using the time-honored technique of copying and pasting the text into the calcs, and then assigning them one by one to the containers. It would have taken, I don't know, possibly 2 of the 20 minutes just to do that bit. And yeah, it was just an and like every time I did it, I was like, is there a faster way to do this? And you never find out. Like, that's hilarious. Like, you never find out well, I don't. Like, you never find out, is there a faster way to do it? All you find out is it fast enough? And in this case, it was fast enough. But you're constantly asking.
Yeah, and I find that fascinating because you mentioned it at the start. I mean, how long have you been using Tableau?
Around a year now. My first Viz was back in June last year, or July middle of last year.
So it's just fantastic that you've gone from being new to the platform to winning Iron Viz. So congratulations. It's great for anybody watching this. But that learning those efficiencies, I mean, I've been using Tableau for nearly 16 years. And overall, you pick up on these tricks to make things faster by watching things like Behind the Viz, going to Tableau user groups, watching other people use Tableau. And, they might be going, I'm going to do you a talk on layout containers. But then you just see them do this one thing. And you're like, oh, hang on.
Exactly.
I've just picked that up. So, I'm sure you'll find more efficiency things, I'm sure, as you keep going.
Absolutely. And Behind the Viz was a big part of that. Yeah, like when you become a finalist, you sort of become this Iron Viz historian, and you watch you commune with the greats of the past. And yeah, you absolutely pick up things just by watching. And you just sort of freeze frame it. What did they do just then? And you take it back, and you pick up a lot of tricks from this very series. So hopefully I can continue to pay it forward.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, to people watching who maybe haven't entered an Iron Viz feeder, what tips or advice would you give?
Well, I might have telegraphed this a bit before, but I think story is, well, first of all, here's what you love. Like that's cannot be stressed enough. Like it takes a lot of time to do a qualifier, and it takes even more time to prepare for the finals. Yeah, and of course there's great rewards for spending that time, but you kind of need passion as a kind of a wind in your sail to sort of get through that. So certainly Viz what you love, and then what I was saying before about stories, I think story is really important. It's becoming more and more important. And Will has done this fantastic. Will Sutton from last year has done this great YouTube series on his sort of Iron Viz philosophy, and just cannot stress how important story is to the whole thing. And so I would say, don't just Viz what you love, but sort of work on your story, and so maybe write what you love.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's 30% of the scores, right?
Absolutely.
So we're just seeing. So this is the final sort of the build. We've seen the cover sheet, and now we're seeing this all these layout containers work really cleverly. So I just think it's fantastic. What was the last thing you wanted to say about the iceberg, or did we already say it?
No, I think I might have said it all. I just wanted to, it was just an epic. It was at a time of the build when I really hadn't got everything else straight. I'd got chapters 1 and 2 right. I'd got the bar chart, but I was kind of procrastinating on all the map stuff. I hadn't built all that, and I would have spent easily 2 or 3 serious days just mucking around with iceberg pictures. And a little voice in my head was like, "You don't have time for this. You don't have time for this. You don't have time for this because you've got all this other stuff to do." But in the end, I found that gray iceberg, and the gray iceberg changed everything, because up until then it was kind of, I had blue ones and they weren't really working, but the gray iceberg, I was like, yes, it was worth it. And then happiness.
So the good news is there are pretty much 90% of the people watching this will go, we've walked that path too, right? Wasting the time on the little things, but you know, when you get those little things right, and if it's for an important presentation or an important dashboard, you know, that is the difference between, you know, people really getting your data and them not, right? So and it's part of the enriching personal path of working on these things as well. So I will actually close. I once saw a site. My personal approach to iceberg metaphors has been completely broken, because have you ever seen the site where if that iceberg that's on your viz actually was in the water, it would just tip sideways, right? So you know, icebergs that are mostly beneath water, if you actually put them in the water, they would never look like that. And unfortunately, it's forever broken an iceberg metaphor for me. But but you keep going anyway. Right, so well, there you go. We reached the end of the build there, Paul. Was there anything else we haven't talked about? Anything else? Any other tips or things you really wanted to get across to the viewers?
I guess I could say something about the title page, since that's what we finished up on here. So that just gave me a chance to, and the others too. I saw Brittany and Narosh both had title pages. They both had outro pages as well. I did not get the memo on the outro page, but we all title pages. And yeah, this was just a chance to, practically it was a chance to sort of show the show my sources button somewhere. But it was actually really important for storytelling. And I'll shout out to Will again. That series on YouTube is just incredible. If you're a finalist, and you know, a prospective finalist, and you're watching this, go and watch Will's YouTube series, because he talks about how the presentation is really what Iron Viz is. Like, every decision you're making is about that presentation, or it should be. It should be how do I make that presentation to the audience and the judges as interesting and informative and entertaining as I possibly can. And that's where the title page comes. So title page gives the audience something to look at while I'm sort of working my way through the 20-second monologue that opens this thing up. And it also, storytelling wise, it also introduces kind of like the two main characters, like the wind power and the solar power, both with the little sort of pills, as well as the enormous wind panel and the enormous solar panel, in case subtlety wasn't working. And and that's kind of a storytelling technique, because they don't actually pop up in the story until maybe a minute later. And so this is just a way to sort of prime the audience that these are going to be important a bit later on. And so storytelling, very important. Thanks, Will.
Well, that's true. So I mean, Iron Viz is analysis, design, and storytelling, and you know, it's obviously a fairly unique vehicle for using Tableau. But if you are somebody who is trying to use data to persuade others to change their minds through your insights, then that isn't going to happen unless you do analysis, design, and storytelling. So it's a good general tip for everybody. Right. Well, in which case, Paul, the build is done. So I just want to say congratulations on being the Iron Viz 2023 winner. Will you be entering the feeder again next year, or are you like, I'm done? Let another generation do it.
I think I might be. I haven't got my plane tickets yet or anything, but I think I might be sitting in Will's seat next year. I think I get to be the honorary judge.
Yeah.
And then after that, it'll really just come down to passion. It really, you know, like this year was you know, I think I said to Lewis the other day when he asked like games, and I see you're quite a games fan as well behind you. But yeah, games was such a once in a lifetime opportunity. There may never be an Iron Viz topic that I'm so excited about, and so that was why I just had to enter. Like, even, you know, ready or not, this is, you know, I haven't been using it for very long, but this is such a once in a lifetime topic. I had to enter. So if that sort of amazing topic comes along again, then of course I'll enter. I'd love to.
Yeah, one more shout out. And board game, any data about games, I'm there for that too. Brilliant. All right, well, Paul, on behalf of everybody from the team and the community, you know, thanks for taking us through the build today. Thanks for, you know, a great example, and thanks for doing it for the newbies. And we'll see you at the judges' table next year.
My pleasure.
Right.
Thanks, Andy.
Bye, everybody.